Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. Joining us is Representative Pete Hoekstra, Republican from Michigan and top Republican on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Welcome back to Newsmax TV, Representative Hoekstra.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be with you.
First, healthcare reform is taking center stage in Congress right now as Democratic leadership works feverishly to pass the healthcare bill. Democrats are still short of the 216 votes needed. How confident are you that a bill will pass, and where do things stand with the bill right now?
Well, I think there's a lot of uncertainty exactly what's going to happen with this bill. They're saying they're going to vote on this bill this weekend. It's amazing. We don't know what's going to be in the bill. This is a bill that is fundamentally going to change 1/6 of the economy. So it's a health care, it's an economic policy, but it's also a social policy. This bill will fundamentally change the way that the federal government views abortion. For years, we've had the Hyde Amendment in place. This new Senate bill, and this bill, if it becomes law, will put the federal government firmly on the side of providing funding for abortion procedures as a medical necessary procedure. It is a huge shift in public policy in both of those areas. I don't think they've got the votes right now. I think the more that they play with this, and they play with policy, and they play with procedures and process, the more unlikely that it becomes that this bill becomes law. The more that the public learns about this bill, the less likely it is that this bill will become a law.
Now, we're hearing about a number of tricks Democrats are resorting to, including a plot reportedly hatched by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi that would pass health care without a vote. The Speaker is thinking about attempting to pass a measure known as a self-executing rule to get the Senate's bill through without having congressional members cast a single vote. Do you think that the so-called slaughter solution could pass constitutional muster?
I think that if someone challenged that process, which is being called deeming, that we will vote over here, but then by that vote we will deem the health care bill passed, I think the courts would probably avoid being involved in that type of a decision and say, you guys work that out in Congress. We're not going to get involved in the internal workings of the Congress. It's a very interesting procedure. I think that the Democrats might actually expand the concept that if you can vote over here and deem health care passed, the next thing that they will do is they will deem that by voting for health care that their vulnerable members are deemed reelected. They can have all kinds of fun with this. Obviously, they can't do that, but it just shows you to the extreme measures that they are skewing the process to try to get this through. The slaughter solution says we can vote for health care, but you can go home and say you didn't vote for it. It's a trick. I don't think the American people are going to be fooled by it at all.
It doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement of the bill either.
No, it's a terrible bill.
Now, to have to resort to such a tactic, does this represent hubris on Nancy Pelosi's part?
Oh, I think it's an arrogance for the system, the process. It's an unbelievable process that says, I'm in charge here. I don't care what the American people say. I don't care about the rights of the minority or rights of members in Congress. I'm going to skew this process so that I get what I want. It is the worst example of leadership that you can imagine. Real leadership is leaders recognizing that, that they serve the people that they lead. This is an example of leadership where the Speaker is saying, I'm the leader, and you know what? It's your job to follow me. It's totally wrong.
We're also hearing about a lot of arm twisting and special deals for undecided Democrats. Robert Gibbs says there's no quid pro quo as it relates to President Obama. But what promises are House leaders making to win the votes of the undecideds, and what kind of pressure are Democrats under?
Well, I think they're under a tremendous amount of pressure from the Democratic leadership. We'll never know what the deals are. They'll start appearing in 2, 3, 4 months, but we'll never know what relationship there is between a bill, an appropriations bill that is 4 months down the pike versus the agreement that they made today, whether it's a bridge, whether it's a tunnel, whether it's a food program, a nutrition program, an education program. We'll never know. And to say that the president's not part of this deal or any of these deals, excuse me, he's involved, and his administration is involved in all of these negotiations. on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. There won't be any deal cut that this president and this administration is not aware of, because they're going to have to endorse and implement these agreements as we move through the process, as we move through the legislative process, as we move through the appropriations process. But then as some of these agreements get put into law, this administration is going to have to put them into law and affect them. To say he's not part of it, give me a break.
Representative Hoekstra, I'd like to ask you, if a bill does pass, what will the fallout be beyond the predicted consequences for Democrats in midterm elections? Can we expect legal challenges from states or legal challenges on its constitutionality?
Oh, I think you'll see legal challenges from the states. You'll see legal challenges from American citizens. I think you are going to see a level of anger and frustration by the American people that we may have not seen in 20 years here in America. I think people are going to be outraged with the tactics and the policies that this administration and this Congress are using to pass this health care bill. Democrats are under a tremendous amount of pressure, not only from their leadership. There's going to be more pressure from the grassroots, and I think you're going to see them rise up in anger against the tactics that this speaker is using and that this president is using to pass this legislation. Remember, this is the president said, we're going to make this transparent, this whole thing, this whole debate, so the American people can see how good of a bill and how good a policy this is. In the end result, it is probably the least transparent legislation that we have seen in years go through Congress.
Now, should Republicans win back Congress, can the bill be reversed?
It can be reversed, sure. Technically, it'll be very hard to do, but I mean, you know, the Democrats are setting a new parameter here. They're saying, hey, we'll pass major legislation with 51 votes. Forget about the filibuster. The Democrats are going to have to remember that's what is good for the goose is good for the gander. If they use these tactics today, when they are not in charge, the other party may use some of these same tactics in the future to reverse some of the damaging legislation that they've passed. You know, the Democrats are playing fast and loose with policy. They are playing fast and loose with process. I think that it's damaging to both. They're damaging the congressional legislative institutions, and they are damaging public policy.